What's good, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguised Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. That is One Pie Pizza. You can find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. In this edition of Disguised Coverage, we will be diving into the tape a little bit, talking about some pieces that the Bills defense did in the wild card round against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got run on a little bit. Trevor Lawrence made some plays. Parker Washington made some plays. There are definitely some things that the Bills defense will want to clean up and fix a bit, but I thought they did some really cool things on the back end from a coverage standpoint, from a front structure standpoint. The name of the show is Disguised Coverage, and that harkens back to a time when Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer were on this team, and the Bills kind of at the forefront of removing the free and strong from their safety labels, and it was more just two safeties and more interchangeability. And who's the down safety? Who's the back safety? Is it single high? Is it two high? Is it, are you spinning from one to the other pre-snap? What coverage, all of these type of deals, and how they would use those guys. And that's where kind of the Disguised Coverage name came from for this show. And so I thought it would be cool to talk about how the Bills disguised coverage in that wild card round against the Jags. Tying into that, we're also going to talk about how the Bills, played and ID'd some of the tendencies that the Jaguars have had offensively, especially since the acquisition of Jacoby Myers at the trade deadline. And then also break down several plays that Tre White had. No secret that he played a phenomenal game against the Jaguars, including having arguably the most important play of the game when he gets that PBU on that throw from Lawrence, leading to the Cole Bishop interception, which effectively ends the game. He had a great performance, and, even more important was that performance, knowing that there was no Max Hairston available for this game. So if Tre isn't feeling it, or if he goes down, or he's not playing well, whatever, however you want to label it, there's not really a tremendous quality option coming off the bench with where the Bills are at their corner spot. And he locked it down in a variety of ways and, received tons of praise from the media, from fans, from the coaching staff. So I thought it'd be cool to dive into several of his standout plays in that game against Jacksonville and highlight, what happened, what he was doing, and why those plays were so good, aside from just kind of the immediacy and the reaction of like a pass breakup, nice, or, a tip ball that led to an interception, nice, all of those kinds of things. As we do here, we're going to break down some tape, talk about some stuff, focus on the defensive side of the ball. We have got 10 plays that we are going to dive into tonight. Honestly, that's probably not enough. There's a multitude of plays, especially if we're just talking about the whole theme of like changing the pre to post snap picture. There was a ton of that in this game, but that is a theme for the Bills this year. That has been a theme for the Bills for several years, changing that pre to post snap picture. Sometimes it's not the most complicated, right? They're not always a team that is tapping into like, whoa, look at this, really creative fire zone pressure, or, wow, look at this non-traditional Tampa and this spin and all this inverted Tampa 2 or Tampa 2 robber, however you want to label it. Like, oh, look at all these spins. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just, we're going to show single high and then run a two high coverage. We're going to show two high and then spin to a single high coverage. And there was a lot of that in this game, but there was also some really cool stuff within that, some chaotic stuff within that. And so I think that the plays that we have tonight are going to highlight that and kind of how it taxed Trevor Lawrence and taxed the Jags passing offense. We're also going to talk about, what the Jags offense did to try and combat that a little bit. And then, as I mentioned as well, tying in the Tre White piece and just what the Bills have been overall, schematically, thematically, tying in some of the tendency pieces from the Jags as well. I see some comments coming in already. We're going to grab some comments and then kind of just dive right into the tape and dive right into this episode. As James was in here first. Shout out to you, James. James saying our two best blocking wide receivers got whacked Sunday. I feel their pain. And then RJ echoing those sentiments saying, I feel so bad for Gabe and Tyrell, meaning Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers. I don't know how a team this injured can go on the road and beat a team with the last 2 weeks off. Almost no injuries on a short week. This would be a miracle. Yeah, if you are unaware, Gabe Davis torn ACL in that Jags game. Seemed kind of bad initially with how the hit looked, and then he got carried off the field, couldn't put any weight on it. carted off, towel over the head, all not good signs. Tyrell Shavers, he gets hurt. He leaves the game. He comes back, plays in the second half. I also think I saw somewhere that he had more snaps in the second half than Keon Coleman did, which is funny and also kind of a testament to him that he apparently did it on a torn ACL. So Tyrell Shavers, bit of a surprising one. News today that he has a torn ACL. So yeah, no Gabe Davis for this upcoming Sunday against the Broncos. No Tyrell Shavers this upcoming Sunday against the Broncos. Curtis Samuel had his IR return window activated today along with Ed Oliver. Curtis Samuel was a full participant in practice. Ed Oliver was a limited participant. We'll see if one or both of those guys or neither of them play against the Broncos. I will say, though, the Broncos did play a bit for keeps in that Week 18 game, Week 18. I'm so thrown off now because of the odd number of games in the season. I'm still like 16-game season, 17 weeks. Week 18, the Broncos did play their dudes a bit against the Chargers to try and lock in that 1 seed, which they ended up doing. But yeah, I mean, they're at home. The Bills are playing on a short week, having to play on Sunday and then having to play this upcoming Saturday. They're the early game, as well, 4:30 Eastern start time. So 1:30 Pacific start time, or I think Denver might be 2 hours behind Mountain time there. Either way, an even earlier start because of the time zone change, then the altitude difference, the injuries. Yeah, not ideal, but got to dance with who brought you. We'll kind of see what happened. This is a really funny comment from Arthur, who said, when people said we should model our franchise after the 49ers, I don't think this is what they meant. Arthur, of course, alluding to the 49ers just seemingly year after year, just getting a multitude of injuries in terms of quantity and quality. This year, obviously highlighted by Fred Warner and Nick Bosa going out. But hey, they survived and advanced as well against the Eagles, and they meet the Seahawks also on Saturday, but in the night game. That's going to be a great game as well. And then James said, yes, strangely enough, we're both still alive. Are the same, would make an amazing Super Bowl. Joey, what's up? Joey says, Jags down and 2 more teams to go, and we are in, Ant. Yeah, they're down to the Final Four in the AFC, the Elite 8 overall. We'll see what happens. William saying, good evening. Ant, what's up, William? Good evening to you. Appreciate you being here. Oh, thank you. Hope you're doing well as well. William says, good evening, Ant. Hope you're doing well. I'm choosing to believe the offense can still overcome the Davis and Shavers injuries. There are some encouraging pieces if you're kind of looking at things, from a Denver standpoint or the matchup standpoint. I'm going to be getting into it a lot on social over the week, like I did last week with the Jags game Jags tape were on like Wednesday. But especially Thursday and Friday, I was posting a lot of scheme and structure stuff, advanced metrics, blitz rates, blitz paths, coverage tendencies, a lot of tape and a lot of pieces. I'll be doing that same thing for the Broncos this week. But as good as the Broncos defense is, they can be run on a little bit. The metrics speak to that. The tape speaks to that. You also want to run on the Broncos anyway, just because of how good their pressure packages are, how good their blitz paths are. And if you want to kind of play devil's advocate, you're probably not going to pass on Pat Surtain anyway. So whatever, just throw a body out there and just let him kind of twiddle his thumbs against the guy you're not going to throw the ball to anyway. Maybe Keon Coleman can get the better Riley Moss in some jump ball scenarios, but this was going to be a run the ball type of game anyway. Now their hand is even more forced in this area, but get some timely plays on defense. Josh Allen does some Josh Allen mutant stuff and you get the run game going. We'll see what they can be. Joey says, on offense, I know Shavers blocks on the perimeter. Why can't we put Kincaid out there wide and still run those wide receiver screens? He has been a bit. You've seen him get the ball on those little RPO bubbles, those screens, and he'll get the ball, but also be a blocker out there as well. So we have seen that a bit, but, may have to lean into that a little bit more as we go from there. RJ saying, yeah, amazing. Shavers played on a torn ACL and played well. Lifetime contract type of thing right there. Yeah. Whew. Just not great. Not great. Comment here saying the national media manifesting the literal only Josh offense. I don't really watch a lot of, and I'm not saying it just to say like, I don't really watch national, but I don't consume a lot of national content, which is sad, honestly, unfortunately. Like I think like a lot of people like us, we grew up on ESPN and then NFL Network. And I remember just I remember being a little kid and getting up early on Sunday mornings to watch Edge NFL Matchup, to hear Ron Jaworski and Merrill Hodge break stuff down like on tape and the highlighting and everything. And so I'm not a big national media consumer now because so much of it is just arguing and yelling and hot taking, and people don't know scheme and structure and technique. And that's not just for football. It seems like that's across a lot of sports, although MLB Network is sick. If you're a baseball fan and you turn on MLB Network, they're doing pitching demonstrations and double play demonstrations and fielding and hitting and situational aspects. MLB Network is awesome. Their coverage of baseball is great. But yeah, I'm not a big national media consumer, and especially after everything these like past couple weeks, it's just bleh. That everything is narrative driven and click driven and engagement driven. You don't know who is saying what because they believe it or who is saying that because that's what the production meeting said they should say. You know, you have two people, one's arguing red is great, one's arguing blue is great, and neither of them probably believe that. They just showed up at the production meeting and the producers were like, all right, you're going to say blue is great, you're going to say red is great, go. It's just not fun. Just not fun. Oh, good call from Arthur. If you watch the video of the 10 plus yard tush push, you can see Shavers pushing his guy a couple yards downfield on one ACL. Very fair. NFL needs to get rid of the playoff bye. Keep home field via the seeding, sure, but you may as well give the Super Bowl champs first pick in the draft. I kind of like being, if you're the one seed, I feel like you earn that bye. I would rather go back to the top two seeds getting the bye. It would have helped the Bills these last couple of years, but I feel you on there. Charleston, yeah, sacrificial wind sprints versus PS2. Yeah, even if the Bills are completely healthy at wide receiver, and this isn't necessarily a complete knock against the Bills wide receivers, but Surtain is nasty. I mean, him and Stingley are the two best corners in football, and that's a testament to both of them. But, you know, Surtain is the reigning defensive player of the year, probably the best corner in football. Even if the Bills wide receiver room is completely healthy, I'm not throwing against him. Like, unless it's absolutely necessary. And even then, I'm still like, no, just do whatever. I'm just going to put a guy out there to occupy you and kind of go from there. I think it'd be nice to maybe play into that a bit and then test him late. But yeah, you're just having a guy out there just being like, hey, man, just go line up, do something out there, just occupy Pat. That's it. Joey saying, Jason says, is Wilkerson a viable replacement for Shavers? Not as a blocker. We'll see as a pass catcher. He's got more juice, a little more jitterbug to him, but not as a blocker. Shavers is a weapon there. Shavers is like the joke of like, if you're in 11 personnel and Shavers is out there, you're really in like 11 and a half personnel. He's been sick as a blocker. And the first catch that he had on the first drive of the game, where he sells vertical in his stem, a little deception, a little pace and gear change before he throttles down. I think he's a bit of an underestimated route runner. Like, I really think Tyrell Shavers is a perfect like wide receiver 5 or 4 for a team, depending on how good your wide receiver room is. He plays special teams. He's a good blocker. You know, he's a sandpaper type of dude, and he's a bit better route runner and receiver, actual like wide receiver than he gets credit for. Joey says, what's your best bet as to who we play in Poyer's spot? I'm really worried with how Hancock looked. On tape, Hancock was better than the broadcast showed. A couple good plays, a couple plays where his eyes misled him or his, positioning wasn't right, but that's to be expected. It's really kind of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, depending on what you're looking at. Like, do you want DeMar Hamlin in there because he's reliable, but he's super limited athletically? Do you want to put Darnell Savage in there? Although he's more of like kind of like a big nickel and an apex type of dude now than a true safety, but he could still probably rock there a little bit. I don't think there's a great answer. I would probably just roll with Cam Lewis if I had to, but I won't be distraught if Hancock is in there because I don't really think there's a better answer. If there's a better answer than Hancock, it's a minuscule difference for me anyway. Yeah, good comment here. MLB Network is indeed excellent. It really is. They just do like the sport that they cover. They just do it so well because they got real baseball dudes in there. Like they talk about the right stuff. It's awesome. I wish the NFL Network mirrored that or ESPN mirrored that. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. What similarities and differences exist between the Broncos D last year and this? So I've watched the Broncos defense decently throughout the year, but I'm really doing that full deep dive, like I mentioned, towards the back end of this week. But I think overall, it's you have studs on that defense. You've got Surtain. You've got Benito and you've got Zach Allen and you've got Jonathan Cooper and like even inside, with Roach and DJ Jones and John Franklin Myers, you've got a group that can get after the quarterback. They'll do 5-man fronts. They're really good with their blitz pass and their pressure pass, pirate stunts and what gaps they're attacking and who's spiking, who's doing what. And that's good in and of itself because they also have guys who can just win individually. And then on the back end, you've got kind of a leverage-based, match-based coverage, from an outside corner perspective, but then you play zone inside and it's rules-based and very, very clinical, very technical. I think there is a matchup to be had with the linebackers. For as cool as Dre Greenlaw is, he can be had in coverage. I think you can have Alex Singleton in coverage as well. And then from a safety perspective, Hufanga is a beast and super cool, but is more of a downhill thumping type of safety. And then the other safety, because Brandon Jones is hurt, although I read there's a chance he might be able to come back for the playoffs. I don't know if that's going to be this week or not, but your safeties are Hufanga and PJ Locke. I believe. And even if it's not Locke, whoever the safeties are, they can be had in coverage. Even Hufanga, who's sweet, can be had in coverage. Like, I will take Kincaid against either of the linebackers or any of their safeties any day of the week. So I think this year it's really just, you have the similarities from a pressure standpoint, from a coverage standpoint, from a talent standpoint. But I think they can be had kind of in their spine from a coverage standpoint of the linebackers and the safeties, get those matchups. I mean, granted, Dalton Kincaid's not really super healthy, so we'll see how much they can do there. But even Dawson Knox, I think, kind of tap that in a bit, use some misdirection, some play action, attack the spine, attack that second level. I talked about it a couple weeks ago with Cody Alexander when I had him on the show, that Greenlaw and Singleton can be had. And then I think, Riley Moss, every once in a while, he gets targeted a bunch. He's better than he gets credit for. But you can, if you got someone like Keon Coleman, maybe just try and beat him with raw size and frame and length and athleticism and, kind of see where you go from there. But they're a quality unit. They can get run on a bit. Although Roach and Jones and the crew inside, they've just got a bunch of names and they're well coached by Vance Joseph. Good group. Oh, appreciate you. No lie. Stopped watching national media after I found cover one. You guys are light years better than anything on ESPN. Oh, I appreciate you for that. Thank you very much. And then the follow-up comment, Mina's all right, though. Mina Kimes is phenomenal. Mina Kimes is absolutely phenomenal. What else? Yep. Greg Rousseau, really good versus offensive guards. I want to see him matched up inside more. If they can get into known passing down in distances and situations, sure. Hufanga is a missile. John saying, Ant, do you see Mecole Hardman and Curtis Samuel up to Denver? I mean, Samuel was a full participant today. If he's good to go, he's 1,000% playing. And he had a good game last year against Denver in the playoffs. Yeah, Scott says playoff Curtis. I think if Samuel's good to go, he's a lock. Hardman, I think, is a bit more of a question, but would probably be next man up. And then who knows? Maybe they only put 4 wide receivers out there. There's a lot of roster questions, but I think if Curtis Samuel's good to go, he's 1,000% playing, and then we'll kind of just see what happens with Mecole Hardman. Good question here from Joey saying, do you think sometimes McDermott and Bean are not aligned on their vision? Ogunjobi, healthy scratch at $8 million per year, and there have been other ones also. His was a question mark. I didn't love the fit. I didn't love the player a ton coming in, but I thought he was at worst like defensive tackle 3, defensive tackle 4 in the rotation. Very interesting that they opted to essentially play Fedarian Mathis over him. I always thought Bean and McDermott were lockstep and everything. I'm kind of thinking that might not be the case as this season has gone on a little bit. But it's hard to tell. But I think that's a very fair question. Oh, Logan says, would you have Keon be a 1-for-1 sub for the Shavers role? Oh, in theory, yes. I just don't trust him down in and down out like I do Shavers. But in theory, yeah. Like he can body DBs and push dudes around. But just will he? I'm torn. I also think Shavers is a better route runner, unfortunately. Yeah. Fair comment here, too. Probably see more of our tight ends involved considering the injuries. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, poor Shavers. Yeah, Shavers. Oh, my God. And crying emoji. That's where we're at right now, unfortunately. All right. Let us dive into the tape here. So let me remove this banner and then I'll take myself down in a minute. So again, the theme with this episode, like I wanted to talk about, and for those of you still questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything and everything that you've got there, as I can get to pieces, I will. Obviously, it's hard for me to kind of go back to the notes and then the film and drawing and telestrating and then pulling up the chat, but questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, get them into the chat. I will get to them as best and as humanly as possible. And especially as always, making priority for super chats if those do come in. So again, with this episode, I just thought it was cool. And we talked about it a bit. We did, when Kendall was on the show with us after the second New England Patriots game, we broke down every single play from the second half for the Bills defense against the Pats offense in that comeback. And we talked about a lot of the cool coverage stuff that they were doing, a lot of the cover 8, a lot of locking on the backside, changing the pre to post snap picture, press, beating guys up on mesh on that last play of the game, simulated pressures, dropping Joey Bosa, all this kind of cool stuff that they were doing. We talked about it and we broke all that stuff down in that episode after the Pats game and the victory in New England. And we've talked about that a bunch in the show. And I don't think this game was, kind of what they did was anything like, where has this been all year? I can't believe they busted this out. I think some of it was just from, thematically, from a theme perspective, is kind of just who they are and what they've have been. But some of the specifics and some of what they were doing, was, I think, Jags specific and kind of tailored to the Jags a little bit, which is cool. Obviously, we'll talk about that as we go forward here. But just, I thought a good game plan. One thing that kind of similar to the New England game, ironically, I thought the Jags would have stuck to the run a little bit more, especially with how much success they had there. I don't think this is news to anyone, but the Bills' run defense is still questionable. It showed in this game. Getting into known passing down and distances and situations plays into the Bills' hands 1,000%. If the Bills can get into situations where they can do all of, let me rephrase that. They can only do all this cool coverage stuff and changing the pre to post snap picture stuff if they really get into these known passing down and distances and situations. If it's 3rd and 3, it's a little harder because they still have to honor the run. But if it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, maybe even 3rd and 6, 3rd medium to 3rd and long, you can kind of play into that a little bit more if you're the Bills. And so I think the Jags kind of played into the Bills' hands a little bit, although some of this cool stuff we were going to go over in this game did happen on early downs. If you want to ask about the Broncos don't have the best run game in the world. They do have some good offensive linemen, particularly Garrett Bowles at left tackle and Quinn Miners, their right guard, both of whom made the, I think, first team All-Pro for each of them. They're definitely on the All-Pro list. I think they were each first team All-Pro. And then RJ Harvey, their running back this year, he can break tackles like a son of a gun. And for a defense that struggled with yards after contact per rush attempt like the Bills have for this year, that's going to be at a premium. Tackling RJ Harvey. We'll see how the run game goes for the Broncos, though. I'm wondering how much they commit to it. If you're an offense, you really just should commit to trying running the ball down the Bills' throat and going from there. So I thought the Jags got away from it a little bit in this game. I thought they could have tapped into it a bit more. But all things considered, I thought the Jags did have a pretty good game plan, using motion to try and decipher what the Bills were doing. There really was a lot of chess matchery on both sides of the ball. Lawrence against Shaq Thompson in the Bills defense, Josh Allen against Foye Oluokun in the Jags defense. You saw checks, you saw pre-snap motion, like indicator motions. You saw snaps happening, close to the play clock running out. You saw adjustments from the defense once the quarterback was adjusting on both sides of the ball. Again, there are a lot of Jedi mind tricks, a lot of cool chess match stuff on both sides of the ball. Obviously, we're going to see a bunch of that here in this episode from the Bills defensive side, but you saw it on the Jags side as well. I think the Jags are a good team. We talked about it last week with JP. I think they're a good unit. You got to feel, hard done if you're a Jags player or a Jags fan that they're eliminated already. This game easily could have gone their way, but at the end of the day, when the Bills needed to, they made the plays they needed to make on the defensive side of the ball. And that's a piece too I want to talk about, and then we're going to get right into the tape. I'm sorry. I've said it so much on the show, and a lot of people talk about it at this point. Like if the Bills can't run the ball on offense, they're dead in the water. And so it's like, okay, if they can't run the ball and they can't stop the run, then it gets even worse. And they kind of couldn't stop the run. Not even kind of. They really couldn't stop the run for the most part in this game, especially for long spurts. But they made plays in coverage. They got some takeaways. And then Josh Allen in the pass game stepped it up and carried them. So I think that's a really encouraging thing to see that, if the post-game results, even like the raw stats, but the advanced metrics, if you saw them, from a Bills rushing standpoint, you would be like, oh, well, the Bills were terrible. Their success rate, their EPA per rush on running back runs, man, they probably got killed. They probably scored 13 points and got housed. And it wasn't that the case. Like the fact that they were able to win without getting the run game going, and the fact that they were able to win while getting gashed a bit on the ground, that's really encouraging. This wasn't a favorable game script type of game necessarily for the Bills, and they were still able to overcome that, survive, and advance. Really cool, really cool, really cool. So let's dive into the tape. I'm going to shut up now, and let's put the tape up there. Okay, everybody can see everything. Okay. Charles, I see your comment. Question. I'm going to start it, and we'll get to it at the end. If I don't, forgive me, but I started, so it'll show up in my category for that. All right, this first play that we're going to get into, this is so everything here is in sequential order, like the plays, play 1 to play 10. Play 10 is, later in the game. Play 1 is earlier. These all go in sequential order as they occurred in the game. This first play here, first quarter, 13 minutes, 47 seconds. Essentially kind of what we just have labeled up here. We're going to get a pressure look pre-snap, and then on the snap, we are going to get a drop to a 2-man odd mirror look. Odd mirror, we've talked about it a bunch on the show, talked about it a bunch on social. Essentially what you're going to get for odd mirrors, you're going to get 3 traditional rushers. It's these 3 defensive linemen here. What the Bills have been doing throughout the season is pairing, their 3-down lineman look with 3 linebackers. So actually, let me undo that one so you can see here. So you got Dorian Williams, you got Shaq Thompson, you got Matt Milano. This helps them lean into that odd mirror type of stuff because you can take Dorian and have him be a true 4th rusher. You can have him be the aggressive spy. You can have Shaq be the aggressive spy and the odd mirror stuff. And again, odd mirror, if those who don't know, essentially what that means up front, 3 down, those 3 guys are rushing. All they're trying to do, they don't care about rush lane integrity. They're just trying to create penetration and havoc and get the quarterback off his spot this way, make him evade, make him do something. And then the aggressive spy, whoever it is, kind of hangs out around here as a low hole player. And as soon as that quarterback evades and tries to commit somewhere, that linebacker's on him. If he goes this way, linebacker's on him. So that's essentially what, and then you can pair it with different coverages on the back end here. What we get for the Bills is 2-man, which means we are going to get man coverage across the board with 2 deep half safeties. But what's cool about this one, little wrinkle again, we're showing some pressure, right? Pressure. Who's coming? What's happening here? Bishop is over here as well. So we're getting pressure from the boundary. And then on top of that, got a man coverage look across the board. Tre White head up. Taron Johnson peeking in the backfield, but head up on Parker Washington. Milano's lined up over here on Brenton Strange. And then we've got Benford in off, but eyes are on Jakobi Meyers. So if you're a Jags player, fan, coach, or Trevor Lawrence, most importantly, you're seeing this and you're thinking okay, this probably looks like cover 1. Man across the board, single high post safety. But on the snap, also what I have a lot of these kind of clipped and shown from as soon as I can so that we can kind of see some of the chess match and the adjustments. So let's watch Lawrence. He's scanning. He's looking, trying to see what he's going to get. Boom, snaps the ball. Now, so we had that pressure look, right? Everybody who showed up on pressure. Now, all we're getting is 3 rushers. Boom. The odd mirror piece is those 3 rushers plus Shaq Thompson, who is your aggressive spy here. Dorian Williams is rushing, but he's really kind of hug rushing and attacking the running back. So if the running back stays in the block, and we've talked about this a bunch going back to that Patriots game where we broke down every single defensive play for the Bills defense in the second half against the Patriots. Dorian's hug rushing here. He's attacking. If the running back stays in, he'll stay as a rusher, kind of like a green dog there. Green dog meaning, you have the running back man-to-man. The running back stays in, you blitz. It's referred to that because usually a linebacker blitzer used to be referred to as a red dog for those who care or who want to know. So Dorian here, he attacks, but if ETN were to release, Dorian would go with him. And you can even see here, right? Here's Dorian. He looks like he's fully rushing, but he sees ETN. So he's kind of keeping an eye on him, watching as he goes from there, right? Shaq Thompson, he's the aggressive spy. Somebody in the chat asked, why is Bosa lined up so wide? So this one, rush lane integrity doesn't really matter as much because you've got this aggressive spy here. All the the down 3. So Bosa, Daquan and Groot are trying to do. They're just trying to get Lawrence off the spot. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter if they go high and push him forward. It doesn't matter if they get inside and make him bubble and go out because you've got that aggressive spy who's essentially going to be able to close down on him in space and make you right. So line up as wide as you want. And usually if you want to line up wide, you're kind of creating a runway for yourself, generate some speed to power, put yourself more on an island against an offensive tackle out there in space and be able to kind of take advantage of that matchup a bit. So on the snap, boom, there we go. Okay. Aggressive spy. There we go. Man coverage. But this is where the cool little spin happens, right? So not only do we have the odd mirror piece up front, we got 2-man on the back end, but here's one safety, Jordan Hancock. The other deep half safety is not really a safety. It's Christian Benford. And that's because Cole Bishop, who's right here. We're going to go back to pre-snap here. Here's Cole Bishop. Here's Christian Benford, right? So on the snap, watch Cole Bishop immediately get eyes onto Jakobi Meyers. And Bishop is the quote-unquote cornerback that's in trail technique in 2-man here on Jakobi Meyers with Benford playing the deep half over the top. Bishop, also what's really good on this from Bishop, look at, this is a perfect, I didn't even plan this right now, but the pause on the screen, look at his head. Eyes are down, eyes on hips. That's where you want your eyes to be if you are reading that wide receiver. So eyes on hips from Cole Bishop. This is really nice. Again, something I've talked about a bunch is to why I want to pair Bishop with more of a ball hawk or a rangy type of safety. He just excels in and around the box as a blitzer, as an apex player, anywhere in and around the sideline, line of scrimmage, box area, manning up on tight ends, running backs, but playing in the hook curls, the curl flat, or even, coming down from depth as a robber in any type of way, or a buzz player or a sky safety in cover 3. I just think that's where he excels the most. This is kind of next level, him being able to stay here with Jakobi Meyers. I don't want him covering like legit type of wide receivers with regularity, but the fact that he has this in his tool bag a bit is pretty cool, and part of why I want him as more of a down safety, though he has improved as a split field and single high post safety this year. But good coverage from Bishop, eyes on hips for Meyers here, playing with inside leverage. He knows he has help over the top, and he's just waiting for Meyers to declare. Eyes are on the hips. He sees him throttle down, and watch Bishop just undercut this. And this is a good ball from Trevor Lawrence. Bishop forces it, though. Like, the good coverage from Cole Bishop makes this have to be a perfect throw and a perfect catch. The throw isn't bad from Lawrence. It's in a spot where it hits Meyers right in the hands. Meyers is just unable to catch it. It goes to his hands right here, and then Bishop takes him to ground, forces him down, kind of lets him know about it after. So we'll play it here in real time one last time. Really cool. So 2-man, odd mirror. Also, if we're playing the disguise coverage game, name of the show, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We got single high, man coverage pre-snap, and then on the snap, we are going to spin to a 2-high coverage because we've got those 2 safeties, but one of the safeties is actually Christian Benford, who isn't a safety, and then we've got Cole Bishop in trail underneath on Jakobi Meyers. Again, this is another benefit of having, hybrid type players or various body types and athleticism type of deals where you don't know who's going to do what, who's coming from where, from a rush structure standpoint, a coverage structure standpoint, any of that stuff. But early on here, show some pressure. Spin to a 2-man odd mirror after showing cover 1, single high man coverage pre-snap. Good job. And again, sometimes that's all it takes, right? Make someone else have to make a perfect play. And they come close, right? That's a good ball from Lawrence. Maybe a little high. Meyers has to extend it. Meyers will be upset at himself for not coming down with it, though. But sometimes you don't have to get the straight stop. Just make the other team have to make a play. And they make them have to make a great play, and the Jags don't make it. Bills force the punt. Nice. Okay, next. This next one, nothing crazy. This is at the 7:51 mark in the first quarter. We're going to get a double cornerback blitz. So Benford's going to rush. Tre White is going to rush. This is on first down. We've seen the Bills do this throughout the year. They will use these corner blitzes as a weapon, especially on early downs, usually on first down, as a bit of a change up and trying to attack an offense's run game. It's usually brought as a way to get the run. For those who remember, Trent Benford. I don't know why I went with Trent. I was going to say Cole Benford. I'm falling apart. Christian Benford's pick 6 against the Cincinnati Bengals was off of a corner blitz, not a double, just a single. Usually if the Bills are bringing one corner, it's going to be that boundary side corner. They've done it with Trey. They've done it with Benford a bunch, but you'll remember we talked about it in this episode when we spoke on the quote from Benford. He said like he was expecting run. Like they called it as a run blitz. It just happened to be a pass, and then Benford went up and made a play. What's cool is the amount of corner blitzes the Bills have used this year. Again, we've seen this throughout the year from the Bills. Sometimes it'll just be one outside corner, sometimes both. Again, if it's one corner, it's usually coming from the boundary. The Bills this year in 2025 are second in the league in cornerback blitzes at 9.2%. Last year, they were fourth, so still pretty high, but last year they were fourth at 4%. They were at 4% last year. This year, they're at 9.2%, so more than double their corner blitz rate from last year. Again, this is something they really wielded. Benford is great at it because he's so good coming forward as a tackler and as a force player, but Tre White has been sneaky good with that as well. So we also got a multitude of cornerback blitzes in this game. We've got this one. There's another in the third quarter. There's another in the fourth quarter. There's one attached to a fire zone in the fourth quarter. They use this throughout the game like they did throughout the year. Again, it's been successful for them, but we'll watch here. And again, if you are, kind of Trevor Lawrence, you're seeing what's happening. And this is a good example too. Let's show we got a pre-snap shift or motion. We're trying to identify, okay, we see Dorian is traveling with the tight end. Okay, we see the switch where they want to keep the strong side versus the weak side. Now we're going to get the motion. The Bills are going to shift. Benford, you can see his eyes are peeking in a little bit. Tre, his eyes are peeking in a little bit. But unless you really see the eyes and the head placement, head up, you're thinking, okay, is this man? Like, what kind of coverage is being played on the outside? But each guy attacks. And you can see how they really squeeze this run in, constrict everything for Travis Etienne. And this ends up being like a couple yards gained here. Played in real time. Then we're going to take a peek at the end zone. Yeah, Charles, excellent point in the comments saying get a negative on first down, one way to limit the running game option. That is 1000% true. Win on first down and second down. That's the whole idea of, earn the right to rush the quarterback. The Bills have to do it by attacking, run blitzes, run stunts, putting a safety in the box and winning by gapping out or using numbers. This isn't a defense that's just going to win by letting their front four, steal gaps and, win individually all the time. So they have to kind of create some of the negative plays with movement like they do here, but this is good. Okay, one more time from this angle, and then I'll show from the end zone angle just to show you the angle that it takes, kind of what it forces. So again, end zone angle, just want to highlight the constriction of the path for ETN and how it essentially kind of keeps him in a phone booth. So get that motion from Strange. So here he goes. AJ Epinesa also beats Strange on the inside. The run that we're getting here, they're moving Strange, putting him in motion. And he's trying to cut off Epinesa, but Epinesa squeezes down right away because he sees the down block from the left tackle. But you can see ETN, like Anton Harrison punches his man inside. Well, watch. But part of the reason he's able to do that is because Groot takes a bit of an inside step because he knows he's got Benford coming on the outside there. So ETN is like, oh, sweet. I can bounce this outside. Nope. You see him kind of switch his feet because this is closed. This is closed. Epinesa's coming inside. But even that, like this is all gummed up. Again, just constricting the running lanes, the run paths, and making ETN have to play in a phone booth, which is exactly what you want to do against a running back like Travis Etienne, who I said it last week. He's one of those running backs who could have 7 carries for 17 yards. Then all of a sudden he's got 8 carries for 57 or 67 yards because he busted off a 50-yarder or a 60-yarder. Like keep him in a phone booth, hemmed in, penned in. They do here. He tries to get upfield. AJ Epinesa gets a piece of him, drops him down. Doherty gets a head on him too, and he goes down. This next one, the Shaq Thompson interception in the first quarter, the 5-minute, 25-second mark. And you see, as I have labeled up here, we're going to talk about the coverage spin. We're going to talk about how Shaq reads the route distribution and how this ties in a bit to knowing the Jags' tendency to want to throw digs. Not Stephon Diggs. I mean, the actual dig route, which is like a 10-yard in breaker. Different teams will kind of run it at different routes or different depths or depending on the situation. But you'll get that dig route like we'll see on this play. I don't have the quantifying numbers, but that's the first piece I want to talk about. Watching the tape of the Jags since they acquired Jakobi Meyers, you will see there is just mad dig routes being thrown. Usually, ironically, and particularly to Jakobi Meyers. But you'll see him to Parker Washington. Every once in a while, one to Brian Thomas Jr. But since they got Meyers down the stretch, they're weaponizing and wielding those dig routes. And Trevor Lawrence loves throwing it. And again, usually to Meyers. JP, when we had him on the show last week, JP Acosta, he said it last week when we were like, oh, I asked him the question, what's been the biggest difference of Jakobi Meyers, coming to the Jags? And he said, like, he's the adult in the room when it comes to running over the middle. These dig routes are part of that. And again, Parker Washington can do some of it too. But you tie into that tendency, that a little bit. You have an idea of like, okay, here is this route they like to hit. Here's this route they like to run. And it showed up multiple times in this game. The interception here is on a dig route, which we're going to get into. The interception at the end of the game from Cole Bishop is also on a dig route. So cool little piece to go from there. Again, coverage disguise on this one. We got single high pre-snap, bit of a man look. We're going to get into that. And then on the snap, the Bills are going to spin to a Tampa 2. Usually what the Bills like to do, they will like to hold their coverage disguises right up until the snap. So what I mean by that, they'll show single high or 2 high, and then right on the snap, they'll spin to the other one, right? So if they're in single high pre-snap on the snap, they spin to 2. Vice versa. They want to hold that right until the snap and spin. They want to change that pre to post snap picture right on the snap so the quarterback has little time as possible to adjust. And then just, again, really good job from Shaq Thompson eyeing the route distribution from the field. We're going to talk about the route concepts and kind of how it ties into this play here. So here we go. Bit of a pre-snap look, right? And kind of if we're looking at everything here, okay, if you're Trevor Lawrence, capped, 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 single high safety. Shaq Thompson over the running backs. You're thinking like, okay, single high, man coverage. Kind of see what happens here for Trevor Lawrence. Let's let the play run a little bit. And you can see a little bit of a tricky cadence here from the Jags, from Trevor Lawrence, trying to see if the Bills show their hand a little bit. Does it again. Points out. And then see the Bills think the snap is coming, so they're already starting to spin to the too high look a little earlier than they want to do it. That's why I mentioned they usually like to hold that disguise right up until the snap, but a little earlier than they wanted to here, but it doesn't matter. It works out. Let's go in slow-mo. Actually, I'm going to speed it up. Okay, now we get the snap. So you saw Poyer back up a little bit. Now you don't have him over here with more of that man coverage look. So Trevor is trying to process on the snap here, and we're going to look at it really from Shaq Thompson here, because again, this is Tampa 2. He is that Tampa player. My favorite version of Tampa. I know you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers version, but the Brian Urlacher Bears team, I always think of Brian Urlacher as that perfect pole runner linebacker, that middle third player, that Tampa player, however you want to verbalize it. So that's Shaq Thompson on this play. Let's watch him on the snap. So, okay, he knows. Now he gets his eyes here because he's checking for this route distribution from the field. He wants to see what's happening. What's number one doing? What's number two doing? So he peeks there, but now as he gets depth, his eyes are back on Trevor Lawrence. He peeks again, okay? And he sees Jacoby Myers is going on the inside. So he knows, okay, he's underneath. He's kind of eliminated himself from his responsibility for the time being. Cool. Let's kind of leave that. Keeps gaining depth. Now he's just purely watching Trevor Lawrence's eyes. He is letting Trevor Lawrence's eyes lead him to the ball. Before we get to the interception, I'm going to go forward here, but there's really nothing holding Shaq Thompson from going here. Again, Myers came here and is on the shallow drag. Here's Brian Thomas breaking outward. There's nothing holding Shaq Thompson, right here in the middle and making him have to decide. Trevor's not looking over here and holding him here so that way he can hit the dig to Parker Washington. So Shaq eyes the route distribution, continues to gain depth, and now he's just doing what a veteran linebacker does, right? And this is also, I think, the tendency in the tape study comes in. The Bills know that the Jags like to throw digs. They know this is a route that they like to throw, that they like to hit. Shaq Thompson knows this, and especially like the coverage type of play, you can get that if you can high-low that linebacker, get it in behind that second level, see what you can do. I think this is just a really heady play based on tendency knowledge, based on tape study, and based on being a vet like Shaq Thompson is. Lets Trevor's eyes just lead him to the ball. Trevor waits for this dig to clear Milano, and he thinks, sweet, let me throw it. And Shaq says, psych, and picks it. Really nice play from Shaq. Good run back, too. Also, a good effort on the tackle there from Trevor Lawrence. Now we're watching in real time. Again, just let's watch Shaq Thompson in the middle of the field. Okay, single high, maybe it's man. Poyer's starting to back up a little bit. Uh-oh, he's spinning. Okay, now he's spinning. They're splitting. All right, we got a too high structure. Okay, we see the hinge from the corner on the outside. See Benford obstructing Brenton Strange, and then he's also going to hinge, so we've got our Tampa 2. Now I'm going to play it real time from there. Let's just walk Shaq Thompson in the middle of the field. Really good job. Good spatial awareness, understanding what's happening. Eyes the route distribution on the left twice. Lets Trevor's eyes lead him to the ball. And again, there's nothing holding Shaq in the middle of the field. Trevor doesn't eye that right side on the snap. Like he is waiting for that dig to clear. And it's understandable. This is a route they like to throw. Again, his eyes are on it. And Shaq just lets his eyes lead him to the ball. Good pick. And good tackle by Trevor Lawrence. Shout out to Trevor Lawrence for that tackle. James says, hopefully we can mix up Knicks. This is part of, again, why I wanted to dive into this. I think this is going to be hugely important to this game. Sean Payton, great play designer, knows what's up, especially in the red zone. Great play designer. Nix is a great athlete, good arm, but he is somebody, and again, I think the athlete piece will come into play. Like if he sees something he doesn't like, he's a dynamic runner. He'll escape, he'll evade, he'll try and make some plays happen. But I think they can, changing the pre to post snap picture in a multitude of ways, from a coverage standpoint, from a front standpoint, Sims, creepers, 5-man pressure, 6-man pressure, showing this and doing something different. Fire zones, different type of paths and tracks for where we're going to bring the pressure from and who's rushing, all that kind of stuff. That will be important against Bo Nix. Anything you can do to change the pre to post snap picture, I think get him frazzled, get him rattled, make him feel uncomfortable, not trust his eyes. He will get erratic and kind of skittish and then try and rely too much on his legs and say, okay, let me evade earlier than I need to. We'll see how much they move the pocket and try and make him comfortable like they did last year in Buffalo. But it's going to be key. And it's key, honestly, every week. That's even part of the bigger theme of this episode. I've said it for years, like the biggest way to kind of have victories defensively, granted, you could just be the Texans and have studs and be like, yeah, you know what we're going to play. Good luck trying to beat it. Haha. But a lot of it is changing the pre to post snap pictures on the quarterback. You've heard Sean McVay talk about it. Kyle Shanahan has talked about it. This whole, quarterback discourse of, half field reads versus pure progression stuff. It's all tied to how defenses are changing the pre to post snap picture and making you have to decipher what's happening and having to decipher it in real time as quickly and as accurately as possible. That is hard as hell. And so I think that's a theme in general in today's NFL, and I think it looms large every single week, and I think it'll especially loom large this week against the Broncos, just on how Nix plays and the type of stuff that we get. Last time on this one, just because it's a cool play, led to 3 points for the Bills, allowed them to take the 3-0 lead, and this was the second drive for the Jags, and so you had a first drive that was ended on that third down coverage stop that we showed, and the second drive that was ended by this interception here. Good play from Shaq Thompson. He's been awesome this year. I shudder to think what the Bills would be defensively if they did not have Shaq Thompson on this team, which is a crazy thing to say. In January, I was not thinking in the offseason or early in the year that my bingo card would have Shaq Thompson as one of the most players on the Bills, or one of the most important players on the Bills defense for this year. And not just by default, he's playing well on top of it, which is cool. All right, next one. Have labeled here. Again, disguise coverage, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Single high, pre-snap. And then we have a picture change post-snap from the Bills defense. What's cool on this one, you're going to see Trevor Lawrence alert, and then we're going to watch where his eyes go and what happens post-snap. So again, single high coverage. There's Cole Bishop. What do we got from the Bills? Head up, head up. Where is Jordan Poyer? Jordan Poyer's over here thinking, okay, like head up on this tight end, or he could be over here. Maybe somebody's rushing, head up here. On the linebacker there for Shaq. I know that line wasn't straight. Please forgive me. Let's watch Trevor Lawrence. He's going to send the running back, right? So he sends Toot, and Shaq starts to widen with him a little bit, right? Maybe a man indicator. So here's Trevor. We're going to put our eyes to our ears. We're going to alert. We're going to let everybody know what's up because Trevor thinks he sees something. Patrick acknowledges it in the slot, right? Shout out to Tim Patrick. Brian Thomas Jr. acknowledges it. Cool. Shout out to BTJ. Okay. Now watch, here we go. You see everybody starting to move a little bit, right? Let's watch Poyer here. Let's watch Tre White here. We're getting closer to the snap because what do we want to do? We want to hold that disguise right until the snap so we can change the picture right on the snap. Poyer's starting to drop a little bit. You see Taryn dropping a little bit. Bishop is starting to slide over a little bit. He's starting to move from the post to more of a split high alignment. But again, Trevor saw what he saw pre-snap. So what does he do? He gets his eyes left. Okay? But he looks there, and he ends up getting cover 2 to this side, right? We've got our split field safety. We've got our hook player here in Milano, and then we've got our cloud flat player out here with Christian Benford hinging, kind of opening and bailing a little bit with Myers. Lawrence gets his eyes to the left. Good spacing here, right? Where does he want to throw this ball? Does he want to throw it underneath and let Benford, drive on it? Does he want to throw the, hitch to Myers? Does he think Milano won't undercut it? Does he think Benford is eyeing it and Benford might undercut it this way? Whatever's going through Trevor Lawrence's head, he doesn't like it. Again, the pre to post snap picture, it changed. It's now cover 2 to this side. He wasn't expecting it, or he doesn't like it. So he's like, screw this. I'm just going to step up and I'm going to evade. And what's cool, Greg Rousseau eyeing him here, right? He's watching him. He's going to see Lawrence step up, and then he's going to go and trace Lawrence, step up with him, and then bring him down for the sack. So this ends up being a sack for Greg Rousseau. Again, kudos to him for tracing Trevor Lawrence and retracing his own path and getting the sack. But this is a coverage sack. Let's hold that coverage right until the snap. We're dropping. Let's spin. Uh-oh. I don't like that. Let me step up. Boom. Sack. Again, single high, bit of a man coverage look, right? Lawrence alerts. Uh-oh, this picture changed. I don't like it. I don't like it. Screw it. I'm going to step up. Bang, sack. This isn't the craziest spin in the world. This isn't anything, I could see someone saying and be like, this isn't that big of a deal. Who cares? But it doesn't have to, sometimes it doesn't have to be the craziest thing. It doesn't have to be this, Dick LeBeau, Rex Ryan type of defense where it's like, okay, everything completely changed and there's a rush coming and I don't know who's a coverage player, who's a rush player. You got guys blitzing, guys dropping, everything is chaos and all this type of stuff. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, we're going to show single high man coverage and we're going to spin to a 2 high zone coverage structure. And sometimes it's as simple as that. It's just that little change. And the Bills will have these little changes. Like this is basic level for them. And then we have some more sophisticated ones that we saw in this game and we've seen throughout the year a little bit, which is cool. And so again, it doesn't have to be the most complicated or crazy structure. I enjoy those ones tremendously. I love a good non-traditional Tampa 2 spin as much as the next guy. I love Tampa 2 robber and invert and, getting to cover 3 from different looks and making cover 6 look like this and so on and so forth. All that type of stuff. It's cool. I get it. I love it. And I welcome it. But sometimes it doesn't always have to be that. It could just be a simple picture change. And if you're expecting A and you get B, sometimes that's enough. Lawrence alerts, he checks, snaps the ball, looks left, gets cover 2 to that side, doesn't like it, doesn't want it, steps up, sack. Nice. This next one, second quarter, 4-minute and 46 second mark. This play is, so I labeled it, for me, it's a non-traditional Tampa 2 cross dog creeper pressure. Creeper pressure, 1,000%. Cross dog, 1,000%. Some are kind of labeling it as maybe cover 3, which we're going to talk about a bit. I don't think it is based on the rotations that I think were supposed to happen and some of the rotations that we see. What's also interesting on this one is the Bills get into this right as the snap happens. You can see, so when I hit play, the Lawrence is going to snap the ball like 1 1/4 second after I hit play here. The Bills are getting into this, like, watch, they're still moving and adjusting and getting into what they want as the snap is happening. Like Tre and Hancock are over here kind of confirming with one another with what's going to happen. Taron Johnson is coming down here and signaling and checking to Christian Benford. This is all happening as the ball is being snapped. Jags did some different cadence stuff and some snap timing things to kind of throw the Bills out of whack a little bit. So you do have a creative, picture change here from the Bills, but some of it is also a little muddy because the Bills are getting into it right as the snap, and there are some screw-ups here, which we're going to get into. But if we take it at face value, this one again is on a third down. I don't think I mentioned that. Third down, second quarter, 4-minute, 46-second mark. Pre-snap, we are going to get a single high look. And if you really wanted to, go crazy with it, if you're Trevor Lawrence, again, granted, this is happening. The picture is still developing to then change right at the snap. So it's still kind of muddy. But if you're thinking here, like, okay, like man, maybe man, there's nobody here on ETN, but then Tre White comes up here, like maybe man, maybe like someone's going to spit out here. But you've got kind of a man look there either way, single high, trying to diagnose it and see what's up if you're Lawrence. And then we're going to get that post-snap spin. Jordan Hancock is going to come over here. Cole Bishop is going to come right here. And then this is where kind of the screw up happens out here between Benford and Taron Johnson. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to watch Jordan Hancock again. Where is he? Middle of the field, post safety, right? On the snap, you're going to see him widen, kind of get to more of a deep half look, which is part of what makes you think it's a non-traditional Tampa here. If it was, more of a cover 3 look, I think he would stay in the center of the field, especially considering the 3 versus the 2 over here. Although I know they were giving more attention to Brian Thomas Jr. on the day, so maybe they want to put that safety over the top there. But Hancock goes there, right? Okay, so that's one part of the craziness that's happening here. Now, Cole Bishop, let's just watch Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop's going to come into the middle of the field, right? Okay, that's the second part. Okay, now we're going to go back to the snap again. Let's watch Taron Johnson. Watch Taron Johnson. This is part of a key moment in this play. Taron Johnson gets down over the bunch. You can see him. He's signaling and checking to Christian Benford. He's going up. He's giving him the hand signal, telling him what's up. You can see kind of verbally the body language. The arms, his head. He's looking right at Benford, kind of telling him what's up. Let's keep watching those two. Okay. So now, Taron Johnson, he's getting out. He peeks behind him, sees where Benford is in his peripheral. Watch Taron Johnson be like, no, get back. Get back. Let's keep watching this throughout the play. So spoilers for this play result. Incomplete. Okay, ball starting to go to the ground. Here's Taron Johnson again. Watch Taron Johnson go right to Benford. You can see him kind of motioning for that hand check again, trying to get his attention. Benford looks at him because Taron's calling. Again, this isn't anything terrible or crazy. It's just Taron kind of being like, hey, man, you saw that I checked for this? What happened? What's going on? You see Taron's hands are kind of open a little bit. Benford's looking at him. They're trying to have a conference to figure out kind of what went sideways there as Hancock comes up to dash that Bishop. So what I think should have happened here is I think he's your kind of deep half player here. I think he's coming in to the middle, and I think Benford is supposed to drop to the deep half over here. And then essentially you were going to have Taron Johnson as a cloud player over here. Now, next part that we mentioned. So that's the non-traditional Tampa 2 part, right? And the reason it's non-traditional is because one of your deep half safeties, quote unquote, isn't a safety. It's an outside corner in Christian Benford. The next piece I want to mention is the cross dog piece. So all that means for a cross dog, for those who don't know, we're going to get a blitz from these two backers here. So Shaq Thompson's going to go here. Matt Milano is going to cross him and go here. Watch the job that Shaq Thompson does in clearing the way for Matt Milano. Granted, Shaq Thompson gets pushed a little bit, which helps. But watch Shaq Thompson here. We're going to go in slow-mo. Watch him attack. Boom. And you see Milano engages, right? He's engaging head on. Shaq Thompson is picking that man. He's doing that so Milano can then wrap and come free here, which is exactly what happens. Milano gets it, feels it, bangs off, gets popped a little bit, helps heat up Trevor Lawrence. That's the cross dog piece. The last piece, creeper pressure. We talk about it all the time on the show. Creeper pressure, simulated pressure, very similar thing. A simulated pressure is you are exchanging a traditional rusher for a non-traditional rusher, but you're still only bringing 4. So the easiest way to think about it, you rush 4, but you drop a defensive tackle or a defensive end into coverage, and you bring a linebacker to replace him. Okay? So you're still rushing 4, but you're swapping a traditional rusher for a non-traditional rusher. Okay? And a traditional coverage player for a non-traditional coverage player. Creeper pressure is the exact same thing, except in a simulated pressure, you're showing it. So 5 guys on the line, 6 guys on the line. Creeper pressure, you're just lining up off ball. You're acting like you're not going to blitz, and then you do. So let's watch these guys here, Milano and Shaq Thompson. Again, everything is happening right as the ball is being snapped, so maybe they were supposed to show it, and it was going to be more of a sim, but for me, I'm calling this a creeper because they're not really showing it. Here's Milano sitting off ball. Shaq is kind of getting towards the line of scrimmage, getting himself some momentum, but here's our 4 traditional rushers, Greg Rousseau, TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, Joey Bosa. Those 4, right? And then we have our 2 off-ball linebackers here. We talked about the cross dog, right? Because we're going to get Thompson. We're going to get Milano. I should highlight that track better. And then who replaces them? Not in directly, but we get our traditional rushers who drop into coverage. Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa. So both of our edge players drop here on this one. So let's watch Bosa. Let's watch Rousseau. We've seen this before. Boom. They both drop out. So again, what are we doing? We're still rushing 4. Sanders, Milano, Shaq Thompson causing hell to free up Milano, Deion Walker, right? We're still rushing 4. We've still got 7 in coverage, but we swapped 2 traditional rushers for 2 non-traditional rushers. I love simulated pressures. I love creepers. Those are my jam in every way, shape, and form. Now, again, we've been talking about this play a bunch. And again, some of it is because of the chaos of it from a Bills perspective and what I think is a screw up to the field side of things. But what do we have? We have single high switch into a 2 high coverage structure. We've got a cross dog. We've got a creeper pressure. We've got all these things that are happening pre to post snap. The picture is changing. And even that nature, right? Granted, there is, potentially that screw up, but someone could label this maybe you're seeing Jordan Hancock here and you're thinking okay, maybe he is the single high safety and this is a deep third and he's a deep third and it's really more of a cover 3 than anything. the whole point is still like you can watch this, like you can get multiple people who will come to different conclusions, even though they can watch the same play, rewind it a bunch, and come to their own thoughts, right? Which, again, I think some of that is tied to the last minute chaos of it. The check's not getting through with enough time. But there's still a lot happening here from a coverage standpoint, which is nice. Now, what's good here? The Jags are going to run a Joe Brady favorite. They are going to run mesh. So you're going to get the underneath drag here, the shallow. You are going to get the higher drag here from Brian Thomas. And then what you usually get in conjunction with that is an OTB route from, Parker Washington here. An OTB route means over the ball route. Sometimes it can be something else. It doesn't always have to be the OTB route. That usually is what it is majority of the time. But they can keep going. They can go this way. They can do different things, if there's a site adjust or if there's something baked in or team specific. But usually you're going to get shallow, the higher drag, and then that over the ball route from Parker Washington. And that, again, is all because this is where, like, the quarterback is reading. He's got, and we're also keeping two. Let's watch ETN. So we get that switch release, right? The eyes are all for Trevor Lawrence coming. So really, this is essentially what the Bills have done. Like, this is mesh rail. Like, you're going to get the rail here, and then you're getting mesh, and then you're going to get that over the ball route. Usually what the read is here for the quarterback here is that running back on the wheel or the rail is an alert. So that's one, and you can see Trevor kind of peeking at it a little bit already, right? So he's looking over there, seeing if ETN is available. He sees Tre peel off. He's like, okay, cool. That's not available. Usually the two is this drag because it's coming to the same side. So your eyes are starting here, then they're going here, part of the progression, right? And then after, so that's one, that's two. Sorry, these are horrible. That's one. That's two. Not bad. This would be three. So your eyes are going to here, and then that way your eyes can just go here to here, and it's just natural progression and flow for everything, right? So Trevor sees that the rail isn't there, the shallow isn't there. Now you can kind of see his body change a little bit. Just watch his body posture. Okay, eyes are on here. Watch him just turn and open up a little bit that way because now he's getting to that over the ball route from Parker Washington. Boom, there he is. He's looking for it. We get a miscommunication between Parker Washington. Parker Washington sees what's going on, isn't, sure, should I sit down? Should I continue? He continues. Lawrence thinks he's going to sit. He's got eyes on Lawrence right now. Lawrence sees him, have eyes on him, and he's thinking, okay, sweet, he's going to sit. Let me throw the ball. Washington continues. Cole Bishop almost gets an interception. Honestly, should have had one if he doesn't fall down. Now, I should have grabbed the end zone view, but I didn't, like a fool. What's cool on this is the processing of Cole Bishop. Let's watch Cole Bishop. In the middle here, boom, eyes immediately get to Brian Thomas because he sees Trevor look left. His eyes get here. He sees what's coming, right? Now, he sees that from Thomas. His eyes get to this side. He sees the shallow drag coming from Myers. He knows this is mesh. He's got it. He sees drag, shallow. He sees it right here, right? So we had his eyes snap to Thomas first. Now his eyes are on Myers. Okay, so he's diagnosed both of those. How does he continue in his processing? Let's watch Cole Bishop's eyes. Watch his head. Okay, he's on Myers. Boom. Now his eyes are locked on Lawrence. He is watching Trevor Lawrence. Okay. So now watch him kind of break a little bit, almost like he's going to that shallow from Myers, right? Because he knows how the progression works. He's breaking. Look at body language. Okay, I'm committing. Let me fly forward and make a play on the shallow drag. But now he slams on the brakes. Why? Because he sees Lawrence's eyes shift and go back towards Parker Washington to that over the ball route. So Bishop slams on the brakes a little bit. Again, here's Cole Bishop. Slams on the brakes. Gets back. And if he doesn't fall down, this is an interception. That is great processing, play recognition, route distribution diagnosis, however you want to verbalize it. That is a great job by Cole Bishop. And again, all of these things happening, right? This is a great picture change. This is a great way to change the pre to post snap picture. mentally tax Lawrence, the Jags offense, all this kind of stuff. This is really cool. And just, again, highlighted by a great job by Cole Bishop. It's watching in real time now a couple times. Just, the eyes and the head movement from Cole Bishop are so good. I wish the feet were good and he could have stayed up and he would have, if he kept his feet, this is probably an interception. But look at Bishop. Eyes to Thomas, eyes to Myers, eyes to Lawrence, slam on the brakes, get back to the middle. Whew. And then on top of it, you got the cross dog with a great pick from Shaq. You get kind of a free runner in Milano who heats up Lawrence a little bit. Also, even look at Joey Bosa right here. Watch Joey Bosa as he drops. Like, he comes forward. He gets his eyes. He sees that ETN is going out, right? So he's like, okay, cool. I don't really need to pay attention to him right now. Eyes get back to Lawrence, and then watch his eyes get on Myers. Like, ready to collect that route. Like, if it happens, okay. And he's sitting there waiting. Rousseau over here on Thomas. Just cool play. Cool play. Good execution, kind of, from the Bills. Again, maybe that error on Benford. Again, we'll watch it real time. Watch these two again. The last piece, Taron Johnson, Christian Benford. Taron gives him the check as he comes down to the line. They're both kind of in the same spot. Taron waves him like, dude, what are you doing? Get back. Plays over. Take the mouthpiece out. Talk a little bit. Hey, what's going on? What happened? Cool stuff. Okay. I saw a super chat. Thank you for being here, Ollie. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you very much. The question is, with the receiver room down to Shakir, Cooks, Coleman, Samuel, and Hardman, does this limit Joe Brady's ability to use 11 personnel runs this week? If that is the grouping, yeah, 1,000%. Because from that, right? Well, let me say this. It depends on how healthy Curtis Samuel is. Curtis Samuel is a capable blocker. I don't think he's to the level of Tyrell Shavers or Khalil Shakir or even Keon Coleman, but he is somewhat capable. But if you're running 11 personnel, essentially what you would have to do out of those looks is, it's still possible, but Cooks has to be your X. And then your two kind of like duo receivers that like to, mash guys on duo or factor in those wing looks when they're running their different type of alignments and condensed stuff, or if they're sending one of the guys from that tight bunch condensed or, attach the formation and sending them on motion to run mid-zone weak. Those guys are usually Shavers and Shakir, right? Sometimes it's been Keon, sometimes Palmer gets in that mix. But with how it is, like you almost kind of have to have those formation adjacent or condensed formation receivers be Shakir and Coleman. And again, I think Curtis Samuel could function a little bit in there, so there is somewhat viability there. But yeah, it hinders you a bit. It limits you a bit. So it's like, okay, do you run more 11 personnel, quote unquote, but it's really Dalton Kincaid, and it's really 12 personnel, but it's more like 11 and a half because he's more receiver than more receiver than blocker. Just like Tyrell Shavers is 11 personnel, but it's more like 11 and a half because he's a bit more of a blocker than he is a pass catcher. But I do think, yeah, it limits the Bills' ability and limits some of the formations that they can use as well. What I do think is interesting is I do like the idea in this game so far. Again, I'm not done with my Broncos analysis, but I like the idea of going a bit spread this week and kind of going spread to run. Like, let's get some spread and get back to the dart game, maybe some RPOs, depending on how healthy Josh is, or some QB read stuff. But I like the idea of maybe spreading Denver out and going like a power spread. So spreading with the idea of, running it. Like the idea of going condensed with the idea to pass, kind of the inverse of that. But yeah, that's a really good question. Really good question. And then your follow-up, this is a big personnel disadvantage compared to nearly every week of the season then, right? Not ideal against the Broncos defense. It depends a little. Again, like Surtain was always going to erase whoever the Bills receiver is that he's on, no matter who the Bills receiver is, because they don't have somebody who can bang with Surtain like that. The disadvantage really is, though, is you just don't want to be limited in any way. Like, you want a full deck of cards going into any matchup, right? Anytime you don't have a full deck, you're at a disadvantage because that's one less thing or two less things or three less things that an offense has to, or that an offense can use that a defense has to account for. And then if you're going in the run game, it makes you kind of have to be like, okay, to run the ball, Do we go with a power spread type of look, or to run the ball, does it have to be 12 or 13 personnel? Does it have to be 21? Does it have to be 22? Are we looking into going jumbo again, putting Alec Anderson on the field? So I don't think it's the end of the world, but it does hinder you. It does limit you. It means you don't have a full deck from that perspective. And I'll just keep running down this. Ollie saying, yeah, it will also affect the snap percentages to have those receivers out there on running pass plays. Yes, 1,000%. And then if you want to have somebody out there to kind of make them think it's a run and then you go play action or you're going to pass, it's a bit more of a tendency or a tell, because all of a sudden if Brandon Cooks is one of those guys attached to the formation, you're a defender thinking like, they're not going to have him insert on duo. This might be a pass. Is he going to run a slide route? Is he going to shift out? Is he motioning out? Is he inserting kind of taking off downfield? This might not be a true run. That's kind of a tendency giveaway or a tell, maybe a little bit. And then, yeah, as you said there, yeah, going to miss those condensed run formations with Shavers. Me too. This, I feel awful for Shavers, and it's really unfortunate for the Bills. Kent says, I would love the Bills to play 12 and 13 personnel. I think they can win this way. Line up and mash. It does favor the Broncos safeties a little bit, like letting Hufanga just be a true box safety and come forward and mash. I like the idea of going heavy to pass as well, like leaning into Hawes, Knox, and Kincaid on the field at the same time, and then working in those play action looks. Let's get Allen on the move. Let's move the pocket. Let's go with some boots. Let's do those half rolls and kind of spin it back the other way that they've done the past couple weeks. So yeah, mash them, play action, dance with who brought you. But yeah, good question, Ollie. Appreciate you for that. This next one, I talked about it earlier on the interception from Shaq Thompson. The Bills, kind of recognizing the Jaguars' propensity for running digs overall, but in particular, kind of running them to Jacoby Myers. That Shaq Thompson interception was on a dig, wasn't to Jacoby Myers. This one, let's watch Jordan Hancock here. Again, this isn't a crazy play. I just wanted to show another example of the Bills kind of anticipating that and waiting for it and attacking it. This is just Jordan Hancock right here, nailing down on the dig from Jacoby Myers. Myers is going to come here, and Hancock is going to nail down on it. Him and Bishop are talking a little bit. Just letting the play run so you can see. Okay, Hancock immediately turns, sees Myers, watch him sit, ready to collect. We're in quarters coverage here. He's all over that dig. Lawrence, this is the play where Lawrence ends up escaping. This is towards the end of the first half. Lawrence escapes, makes a good play. Kudos to him. But again, I want the focus to be on Jordan Hancock right here. Right here, nailing down on this dig from Myers. Just the attention, the anticipation. This is kind of tendency here. Maybe pre-snap, for as much as these two are talking, Bishop's telling him like, hey, we've seen it, watch the dig. And so Hancock is sitting there, and you can see Hancock's like body language, his positioning. Again, you can see the route distribution lineup. There's two receivers of that side, but you get the little underneath here. So he's relating to one as Tre White is here, one being Jacoby Myers, because he would be one, he would be two. And then watch Hancock just sit and wait. Bang, he's ready to pounce and drive all over that dig from Myers. Trevor Lawrence ends up escaping, makes a good play. This leads to a field goal attempt at the end of the first half on a play that probably shouldn't have happened with the Austin Parker Washington catch that Cole Bishop missed the punch out on. And then somehow the Jags get the snap off in time. Bills get penalized, but ball don't lie. Jags missed the kick. Good for them. Now. Oh, it's a good comment from Bob saying, not that it's a good thing to have injuries as a wide receiver, but the different personnel may look like tendency breaker plays. That's a fair point. If you got to run different stuff now because you don't have the personnel, you haven't had that before. That's not on tape. Maybe get some new stuff. All right. And then Joey saying our offensive line does outweigh them by a significant number, though, so there may be more power game. Fair. My thing with that is, too, though, it's not purely just about weight. Like, DJ Jones is a monster against the run. Zach Allen is a monster. Like, it's not always just about weight. It's play style and skill set. And they got dudes up front. But, again, part of the size, piece, and body type thing is a larger conversation of why there's been struggles for the Broncos run game down the stretch. And I do think they can be had a little bit, especially by the Bills, but we will see. This next one of the several standout plays by Tre'Davious White. We're going to get two back-to-back here. So it's a bit of the Tre'Davious White portion of the episode here. We'll also conclude on one as well. So Tre is going to get this pass breakup here out of Palms coverage, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Let's also, focus on Trevor Lawrence here. Again, I'm going to let the play run for a little bit and then talk about Palms. Watch Trevor Lawrence. Hands on ears. Why? Because he's alerting. He's checking. We've seen it before. Running back acknowledges it. He's going to shift, right? Strange and Myers are talking. You saw Strange just kind of put his hands up to Jacoby Myers. Everybody's confirming everything. Got a bit of a play change because Trevor thinks he sees something and what he's got going on, right? Now, Palms coverage, for those who do not know. Palms is, some people view it in the cover 2 family. Some people view it in the quarters family. I view it in the quarters family because of what the safety does on, that type of play and that type of responsibility. So Tre White is playing Palms. Okay. Either we have Palms coverage to this side. Essentially what that means is Tre'Davious White is reading, again, I mentioned it earlier, and I've mentioned on the shows before, just in case those who don't know, we number the pass catching options from the outside in. So if we're going from the boundary, Jacoby Myers is 1, Brenton Strange is 2. If we're going over here, Brian Thomas is 1, Parker Washington is 2, Travis Etienne, because he's to this side, he is the 3. Okay, so keep those numbers in mind because they mean something in general, but especially in Palms. So the corner here is reading 2 to 1. That's who he's reading. He is reading number 2. If 2 goes out, he is going to jump that. That is the biggest thing. So that's why, some people call it put in the cover 2 distinction, because if you get that out here, he's going to jump it. Say you get the vertical from 1, then the safety's got to turn into a split field safety over here to try and get on top of that number 1. But again, eyes here, you got 2 to 1. You are reading 2 to 1. Okay, keep that in mind for this. So if 2 goes out, Tre's jumping it. The safety has to get to the 1. If number 2 goes inside or underneath, usually inside or underneath, that's usually within 5 yards, Tre would then, again, if number 2, kind of draw it out, 2 goes inside or underneath, Tre would then match number 1. Okay, that's why I kind of put in the quarters piece, because of the match, element of it all. Granted, you can have match in other coverages as well, but I digress. So again, if 2 goes out, he's jumping it. Safety has to get over the top to 1. If 2 goes inside or underneath, Tre is going to match number 1 and stay on top of him. Now, the safety, you'll notice he's more of a quarters alignment here. Again, another aspect of why I kind of put it into that quarters family, although it is like kind of cover 2 post snap piece. I got to stop talking about this because we could argue this till the cows come home. So safety has a quarters alignment. He's not necessarily getting to a deep half. The safety is also keying 2 to 1. Okay, so he's keying Brenton Strange to Jacoby Myers, just like Tre White is. If number 2 goes vertical, and that doesn't necessarily mean like vertical, it means like any route like above 5 yards. So if he vertical stems here and posts or something like that, right? There's any vertical, if he gets like above 5 yards, the safety is going to scooch and then match the number 2 from an inside perspective and on the top, not letting him cross his face. Again, he's going to play that like he's a quarter safety. If number 2 goes underneath, right? So again, like we talked about, 2 goes underneath. What Jordan Hancock would then do, he's going to get eyes on number 1. And he essentially is going to kind of play it again like quarters, and he'll look to cut on any in-breaking route. So if we got a slant, that's kind of a messy slant, slant, if we got a dig, if we got a post, if we got even like a little curl or something right there, like he's kind of taking that, right? Man, it's a lot of yellow lines. And again, similar to what we talked about with the Tre piece, if number 2 goes out, this safety is going to push. Crazy line there. Is going to push to number 1, kind of push to him, get over the top. So again, if 2 kind of eliminates himself and goes underneath and 1 takes an outside release, you're going to close the middle of the field. If 2 is out, you're like we get on this play, you push to number 1 and you essentially then play cover 2. So hope everybody understood that breakdown of Palms. I hope I think a lot of coverages get thrown out a bunch, and I always try to, especially on this show, make sure that if I'm saying something, I'm explaining it. And again, what we're going to get on this one, I wanted to explain all the different avenues that this could go in. And honestly, there's more. We could talk about this for like a good chunk of time. But all we're going to get on this one is the tight end, number 2, is going to go out, which means Tre is going to jump that out. And then Jordan Hancock would then have to get over the top onto Jacoby Myers here, who is the 1. And essentially this will play out like cover 2, but it is palms. It's also referred to as 2 read, reading the number 2 receiver right here. So some people, instead of saying palms, they'll say 2 read. We're looking at this side, right? Man coverage, man coverage, man coverage. So we got a bit of, a split field type of look. Man to one side, and then palms to the other. And again, let's focus on the bottom of the screen here, right? This is straight up man. Man eyes, we're on our guy. Man eyes, we're on our guy. Let's watch Benford. Let's watch Taron Johnson at the bottom of the screen. Straight up man coverage, safety over the top. So essentially playing 2-man to the bottom of the screen. Okay. Now let's go back to Tre. Watch Tre. Beautiful job from Tre'Davious White. Okay. Lined up. Again, what do we have post snap? We're playing palms, right? So more of a quarters alignment from the safety. We're keying 2-1 from Tre'Davious White. Tre is watching Brenton Strange. He opens up, sees how the routes are developing. Again, eyes are on Brenton Strange. Strange, that number 2, he goes out. Tre plants and is all over it. Lawrence thinks he's got zone to this side. Like he sees him dropping off. He's thinking like, okay, this might be quarters or whatever he's thinking. Linebacker hasn't gone out. Either way, I got space. I got time. Let me pull the trigger. This is nice. But Tre is reading it, waiting it, triggers, drives, punches right through the hands. Good PBU from Tre White. Good coverage call. Again, bit of a split field coverage. Got 2-man to the bottom, palms to the top. And a great job by Tre White. Reading 2-1, seeing the out. Even a little bit of a delayed release from Brenton Strange as the 2. Let's watch Brenton Strange right here. Watch him kind of take a bit of a delayed release, I should say. Try and create some space for himself, monkey up the timing. Boom. Tre is all over it. Good hips, good feet. I'm not trying to jinx him, but you wouldn't look at that dude and be like, oh man, he's coming off of like a really bad Achilles injury and an ACL injury. Boom, plant, drive. Lawrence doesn't see it. Gets trapped. Also with this too, we'll talk about kind of the apex player here, Milano. So he gets his eyes on Strange and he sees Strange is going out. So he knows, okay, Tre's got that. Let me continue to get vertical, which he does. So now we're on number 2 here. Get a little route here from Jacoby Myers. Milano's here. Hancock's there. There's nowhere to go. Good job. Good times. Good PBU from Tre White. Next one. Also another piece from Tre White. We are going to get cover 3 from the Buffalo Bills after we have a bit of a 2-high structure to start. Look at, we got a safety here. We got a safety here. Showing a little bit of some 2-high stuff. What are we kind of thinking over here for Trevor Lawrence? Maybe man, maybe. Again, they could spin to something else, but either way, at the end of the day, we have a 2-high coverage structure. That's what we have right now. Let's watch Tre White. On the snap, actually, before we watch Tre, let's watch the safeties. On the snap, we're going to get cover 3, so you can even see they're starting to show it already. Bishop's going to get to the post. Jordan Hancock is going to buzz down. We are getting cover 3 buzz here. We're also getting a drop 8, a true drop 8. This isn't, rush 3 and then there's 8 in coverage, but it's odd mirror. This is a true drop 8. We've got 1, 2, 3 rushers, and we've got a legit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in coverage. So a legitimate drop 8 from the Buffalo Bills. Okay, Cole Bishop, he's going to get to the post, right? Single high safety, reading Trevor Lawrence a little bit, kind of seeing what's going on. He's, shading to the field side here a little bit. Ball's somewhat, ball's not exactly on the hash, but it's closer to the right hash. So Bishop playing the field a little bit, even though he is that single high safety. But let's watch Tre'Davious White. White does a really good job, right? If you are going to get, 2 verticals two vertical base routes, two vertical stems as that deep third player. You've got to space those vertical routes, and that is exactly what Tre White does on this play. So he sees peripherals here with Thomas, and then he sees Brenton Strange on the seam, right? So he knows he's got two verticals. He's got to figure this out. But his eyes are on, oh, that's a horrible line. His eyes, this is going to be straight, but his eyes are on Trevor Lawrence. So watch Tre, even though he starts lined up over Brian Thomas Jr. outside, watch Tre start to drift. Why? Because his eyes are on Lawrence. He sees, okay, he's looking inside. His eyes are inside. And then Trevor Lawrence, his eyes are on the safeties. So Lawrence is going to snap this ball, and his eyes are on the coverage structure. He sees that it's single high. He sees Bishop is over here. He's thinking, oh, man, right up the numbers. This seam ball is there. Let me look. What's he doing? Still looking over here a little bit, looking towards Bishop, trying to hold him a little bit, thinking like, okay, something's going over this way. Look at Lawrence's eyes. Look where he's looking. And then all of a sudden, Lawrence turns a little bit, opens up towards Strange. He thinks the seam ball is there, but Tre has already started drifting, undercuts it. Honestly, could have made an interception. We'll watch it in real time so you can get the true feel for it. Watch Tre. You can see that drift, right? He's already starting to drift before Lawrence, is setting and transferring because he's watching his eyes. He's already starting to lean because he sees, he's gonna take that seam. Beat him to it. Great play from Tre White. Good feel for coverage, good spacing of the route distribution. Not even really a spacing, because he's up on Thomas. He's really more shaded towards Brian Thomas. He just reads what's going on here and drifts and takes care of it. Also, too, an example, what I mentioned earlier, right? Like Brian Thomas Jr., so he runs like a vertical base stem, but he's not running a true vertical. It's not a 9 route. It's not a go route. Watch Brian Thomas Jr., and it starts to throttle down. But that, he's running like a deep out. That's a vertical base stem. So both those guys, as far as your kind of coverage rules for route distribution, those guys are both vertical base routes. So Tre has to honor both of them. He doesn't know what's coming. But again, this is great. His body language, he's already leaning this way. He's already starting to drift towards that seam because he sees Trevor Lawrence. And he lets his eyes lead him right to the ball, just like Shaq Thompson did on that Tampa 2 interception earlier in the game. One more time in real time for Tre White. Great play from Tre. Yeah, and as Douglas says in the comments, Tre flying into the picture from the end zone angle on this play is so fun. 1,000%. It's like a cat coming out of nowhere. Like a cat, you're sitting, chilling on a couch, and all of a sudden a cat comes flying out of nowhere and attacks your face or your head. That's exactly what Tre is like. He pounces on this ball out of nowhere like he's a cat. I have that angle on my Twitter and Blue Sky in case anybody cares. Pro__ant on Twitter. Ant on Blue Sky. No underscores there. Just PROANT. Last time. I just like this play. This is so good. This is such a good play. Anytime I see a deep third corner in cover 3 making a play on the seam, that's nice. Oh, dang. Real nice. Good job, Tre. Shout out to Tre. All right, we got 2 plays left. This next one now, fourth quarter, 7 minutes, 21 seconds. This is going to be a fire zone from the Buffalo Bills. Essentially a fire zone. You're just getting a 5-man pressure and then 3 deep, 3 under coverage behind it. Usually it's match-based, rules-based. We're going to go from there. We're going to get an indicator motion from Trevor Lawrence, causing him to alert and then confirm his hot with Parker Washington over here. Parker Washington, awesome player. Talked about him last week in the matchup preview show. He's a good dude, good baller. The Bills, again, on the snap, going to change their coverage. We're going to spin a little bit. They're going to create a free runner in Christian Benford. We're going to watch Matt Milano crush the running back. And then we're going to see the Bills essentially force the ball where they want it to go. So let's look at what we got going on here. Okay, single high coverage. Single high look, I should say, from Bill's standpoint. So Jacoby Myers, right? That little indicator motion. Pops back in, or goes in, pops back out, right? Lawrence sees what the defense does. Checks. Okay. Thinks he has an idea. He's going to alert again. Hands over ears. Watch Jacoby Myers go back into the slot, hands on ears for Lawrence. Let's watch Myers in the slot, hands on ears for him. Everybody's kind of checking. Let's watch tight end here. Okay. Watch him peek inside, peek back. He acknowledges, right? So we're getting an alert. We're getting a check from Trevor Lawrence. Now, let's watch Trevor Lawrence now. Parker Washington, his eyes are in the backfield on Trevor Lawrence. Trevor's going to look to him and confirm, like, yeah, you're in my eye. Parker Washington takes his mouthpiece out, says something, confirms with him, like, puts a hand up. Okay, I got you. Okay. Now, we're already starting to see it. We're starting to see movement. We're starting to see movement. We're starting to see movement, right? So as Trevor Lawrence, let's watch that as well, right? Like, let's just focus on the movement of the Bills defense in relation to Trevor Lawrence. Watch right after Lawrence and Washington signal to each other. The snap is going to happen. That's when the Bills spin. So the Bills are holding this disguise right up until the snap again. Trevor's doing all his checks and confirmations. Here comes the snap. Bang, we're changing. Look at that. Look at the movement from Taron Johnson, Milano, Hancock, Bishop. Watch those 4 guys. The snap is about to happen. Watch them all move. Bang. That's nice. Hold it right up until the snap. He thinks he knows what's up. Bang. Picture's changing. Real nice. And then they're moving in unison. Coordination. Right? Synchronized dance. Boom. Look at it. This is also kind of this motion, watching it, like, the reason I keep rewinding it and playing it from the same spot, you can see the fire zone nature of it, right? So watch Milano. Watch Benford come through on the rush. They're going to bring 2 guys to the B gap. Love pressures that do that kind of stuff. Seattle does that stuff all the time, those B gap pressures. Really good stuff. Let's focus on that first, right? Milano is going to rush. Benford, head up on Parker Washington, selling really well. Hey, I'm head up on this dude. I'm man coverage. I'm not peeking inside like I normally do when I corner blitz. He's head up. Eyes are on Parker Washington. He's selling that, right? Based on what the Jags do or the Jags see, what Lawrence sees, we're going to get a 4-man slide this way. What that means is the tackle is going to go out here with Bosa, which means we're going to get a 2-on-1 here with Milano on the running back, which then leaves Christian Benford free. Okay, so that's essentially what happens here. But as I talked about earlier, let's talk about the path. Milano, Benford, both of those guys rushing through the B gap. So A gap is between center and the guard. The B gap is between the guard and the tackle. Okay, we get that 4-man slide. Here's the B gap, right, y'all. Where does Matt Milano go through? The B gap. Watch Milano crush the running back. Bang. I'm going to go in real time a couple times to watch Milano crush this running back. Just runs right through Tootin. Boom. Detonates on him, blows him up. Boom. But again, now let's watch Benford in relation to that, right? Now Benford's free. Coming right down the pipe. Ends up getting a hand on the pass. Hands up. Gets hands up. Tips the ball. Ends up short of the feet. Now, even if this ball was completed, right? This ball is on the 39-yard line. Washington, we talked about it, right? Parker Washington knows that he's hot. So he's going to see this, and he's going to be like, okay, cool, let me sit right there. Actually, it's not even that deep. He's like, okay, cool, let me sit right here. But the Bills are playing for that. They are looking for that. So watch Bishop, watch Shaq Thompson. Again, we're getting 3 deep, 3 under. What's cool is Bishop is going to be one of those 3 unders. Thompson is going to be one of the 3 unders. Rousseau will be one of the 3 unders. Hancock's going here. Taron's going here. Tre White is going here. Okay? But Thompson reads the route distribution. Bishop reads the route distribution. Watch them just see because their eyes are on it, right? Bishop has to slow down a little bit in case the ball comes here, right? He can't just completely vacate and spin down and all of a sudden, like, this guy is completely unaccounted for. But Bishop, so look at Bishop. He's coming forward, eyes on Lawrence, kind of seeing what's up. The pressure's going to get there. Turns, settles a little bit. Hancock is making his way over the top in case this route goes this way. Thompson's eyes are there, knows what he's got in the periphery. Pressure's going to get there. Lawrence has to spit this ball out hot. So even if that ball's completed, that's going nowhere. It's a 1-yard gain. Bishop and Thompson are right there to make the tackle. And again, that's using that, right? Like, let's make him think A. We're going to bring B. He's established his hots. Parker Washington just replaces, thinking like, oh, okay, I'm hot. Let me replace. Lawrence is like, let me hit my hot. And the Bills are like, cool, that's exactly what we wanted you to do. I like this. Just the last minute spin. Milano blowing up the running back. Benford coming in free because they created a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1. Benford gets his hands up, deflects the ball, but even if this ball is completed, down right away. And it's second down. So you're gonna have a third and long. It ends up being a third and long because it's an incompletion. But that's just so nice. Really nice. I love this type of stuff. This is my jam all day. Fire zone, sims, creepers. Give me that. This is nice. And again, right through that B gap. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. Good stuff. Good football stuff. Oh, hold on, I'll go here. Kent said, damn, I'm watching this in slow motion. I'm still confused. If you mean this sincerely, tell me. What if I can explain something for you? Tell me. So I can kind of, if I need to slow it down further, if I need to explain something better, tell me. So I can kind of make that better for you a little bit there. I will come, if you end up putting a thought or your comment into the chat, I will, actually, I'll play it one more time in slow motion, just in case you're formulating a thought. One more time in slow-mo. Actually, well, I'm going to go here and then, okay, indicator motion, guys moving around. Let's change. I don't want anybody to be confused, although it's not the easiest thing to grasp. Okay. Spins. Here we go. I'm going in slow motion, but also kind of stopping it a little bit so everyone can kind of see how things are developing. Force that ball underneath. Good stuff. Oh, okay, cool. Ken says, no, I get it. I'm just impressed by the design. Thank you. But also, what's funny to that point, right? We're slowing this down and breaking it down. Imagine trying to read all that in real time if you're the quarterback. Like, you're trying to see everything that's happening as pressure is bearing down on you. Like, man, football's a hard sport. But thank you for that clarification, Ken. And I'm glad you understood. I want to make sure everybody has a clear. I know there are some complexities in this, but my aim is always to make the complex as simple as possible. Yes, James, we do want Bo Nix to be confused. So I want to make the complex as simple as possible. So I appreciate that, Ken. All right, last one. Fourth quarter, 59 seconds. The game ender. Tre White PBU leading to a Cole Bishop interception. Man coverage across the board, right? Man coverage, okay? Especially down here. This is our hero on this play, Mr. Javius White, lined up on Jakobi Meyers. Meyers is going to run a dig, okay? Tre White talked about this after the game. You know, he said he felt Jakobi, we're going to show it in the play, like he felt Jakobi Meyers leaning into him. Usually when that happens, dude's going to break inside. Tre attaches to him. He's in his hip pocket and in phase the entire time on this play. But I also like to think that they know Meyers, the Jags, Diggs. Meyers, Jags, Diggs. So Tre, again, right on him from the snap. We are in press. Not a true press because we're not jamming. We are in a soft shoe press. So it's more, we're going to mirror on the snap. Similar to Bishop on the very first play we showed, eyes on hips, right? He's leaning down. We're looking down. Gets that left arm on. Watch him attach. Okay, now this is where Tre said it. He feels Jakobi lean into him, and you can see it, right? He's leaning into his body a little bit. Usually when those veteran receivers do that, they're leaning into you because they're going to try and snap that route off inside and create some separation. Add that on top of Meyers' propensity of getting hit with Diggs from Trevor Lawrence all day here. So Tre is on him, feeling him, eyes still on the hips. He feels him turn completely in phase, completely sticky. Eyes are on the ball. He sees it coming through, jumps in front, punches through the hands. Ball goes right up into the air, into the waiting arms of Mr. Cole Bishop. That's scouting. That's tendency. That's technique, right? from Tre White. That's veteran knowledge and experience. The whole idea, like, oh, I felt him leaning into me. Usually when they lean, they're going to snap it off inside or snap it the other way. So I would imagine they knew during the week, hey man, they like to throw dig. They like to throw the dig, especially to Jacoby Myers. And then he's feeling him here. He's watching the hips. He's got the lean. All of that adding up to him kind of using the preparation, the weekly stuff from an individual standpoint, from a team standpoint, and then his veteran knowledge. Nice. Real time, all over him. So sticky. Great stuff. Now, let us watch the rest of the coverage aspect here. So, 3-man rush with an aggressive spy. What are we getting? Odd mirror. And I mentioned before, man coverage, man coverage. Milano has Strange in man coverage. Dorian has ETN in man coverage. You can see Strange and ETN are both giving some chip help, which is nice, right, on this snap because, granted, they're in man, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in protection for 3 against a heavy numbers advantage for the Bills against 3 wide receivers. That's nice for the Bills. So, again, as we watch too, let's watch the rest of the man coverage. ETN releases. Here's Dorian on him. Strange releases. Here's Milano on him. Again, man coverage. Man coverage. Now, I've seen some people treat this as like a cover one robber. We're going to show here, like, watch Hancock and then watch Bishop. Bishop drops down here like a robber, but if you'll notice Hancock over here, Hancock is in more of like a split field, half field, 2-man type of safety alignment. I think what we got here is, and especially with Bishop's eyes, I think he's poaching the backside, but others might see it as like, hey, this is one robber and Hancock is still the one. He's just shaded over the multi-receiver side or the Brian Thomas Jr. side. They don't want to get beat deep. They recognize the speed that Brian Thomas has, so maybe you want Jordan Hancock shaded over to that side, whatever the situation is. Cool, fine, go ahead. So I've seen some people label this as one robber. I think it's 2-man, and then he's poaching, which is still kind of almost like the same effect as Bishop being a robber. But that's what puts Bishop in this position. Bishop comes down here. Oh, I didn't mean for that to go that fast. Let's watch Cole Bishop. Again, this near side, bottom of the screen safety. Look where his eyes are. His eyes are immediately there. Again, like he is robbing, which essentially, again, he is. Even if it's a poach, he's essentially still kind of robbing this like here. But you can see him kind of get with, kind of seeing what's going on. He sees how the route develops. He gets his eyes. Now, he's still like in his sync. He's still sinking. You can see like how quickly Bishop is like, la, 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 la. Oh, right? Okay, reading everything. Oh, let me put my foot in the ground and come forward because he's still reading the route distribution here. Now he looks in the backfield and he sees Trevor Lawrence is letting that thing loose, puts his foot in the ground, comes forward, and watch him just slow play, kind of seeing what's going to happen, and he's right in position for the tip. That's a great job of reaction and finishing from Cole Bishop, and obviously a great tip by Tre White. I saw... I know some people have said like, oh, Parker Washington was like super wide open. Lawrence should have hit him. So Lawrence is already throwing the ball here. Okay. I'm not saying people in the chat. I'm saying I've seen this on social. He's already throwing the ball here. Okay. Washington hasn't even cleared Cole Bishop yet. And on top of that, one nice little piece that kind of goes under the radar, Joey Bosa, right? He is pinballing his way through to get pressure on Lawrence. Dips inside the tight end, swipes the hands of the left tackle, ricochets off the left guard. Watch. So again, here's the crown of his helmet. He's already kind of coming through there. As soon as Lawrence finishes this throw, Bosa gets him. And now, just as this, right, the ball is bent out. Bosa is hitting Lawrence. Now Parker Washington clears Bishop. I don't think this is as viable as it looks from a screenshot perspective. It's just a great play by Tre White. And then again, whatever you want to label the coverage on the back end, if you want to say it's 2-man with a poach, if you want to say it's cover 1 robber, whatever, I'm focused on Tre. This is a great job from Tre. Bang. Again, either way, that poach from Bishop plays out kind of like a robber a little bit. Although if it was a robber, you would think he would kind of come down. Again, my thoughts are, and again, this matchup based, it could be rule based, right? You could sit there and think like, okay, they want to shade the single high safety over the 2 receiver side or the 3 eligible side because Strange is over there as well, even though he ends up chipping and then releasing. But I would think, the robber would come down a little bit more and then you'd have more of a true post. But teach their own. Again, it could be match based, it could be rules based. I can see you playing devil's advocate. I can see it on both sides. But either way, that poach from Bishop or that robber action from Bishop is what puts him in position. Great play from Tre. Game. And again, right, let's also talk about the coverage spin. What do we have pre-snap? So we got 2 safeties, right? 2 safeties. And then all of a sudden, we kind of have some wonkiness. Again, changing the pre to post snap picture, disguising the coverage, all of this stuff that we saw throughout this game, and like we've seen through the course of this season. I'm going to. Nope, that's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Then we're going to remove this, and now I'm back up. So good stuff from the Buffalo Bills defense in this game. Again, I think there are some concerns on the run game. The Bills are getting gashed, especially on perimeter runs. Some stuff inside got them too. Mainly some of the I moved too much and made the camera go blurry. There we go. They were getting got with some split zone stuff from an inside zone perspective as well. So the run defense is still something that has to be cleaned up. I don't think the run defense is going to be solved anytime soon. Even when they're against teams that don't run well, the Jags are a not good running the football team. They started out decent the first 5 to 8 weeks, and then not only tapered off down the stretch, but fell off a cliff down the stretch as a running team. And they were able to have some good gashes and some good chunks and some good successful runs with their running backs, both ETN and then that stretch for Tootin where he had multiple explosive runs. The Bills gave up the most explosive runs on the week, again, in the wild card round. As of yesterday before the Monday night game, I believe it was 7. So that run defense is still going to be a concern. I don't think the Bills defense played, a phenomenal overall game, but when they needed to have it, they had it. And they had some cool coverage spins, some cool pre to post snap picture changes, some cool blitzes and pressure looks, kind of tying it all together. Yes, great comment from Charles. Bishop had a huge touchdown saving tackle on ETN. Yeah, the Jags ended up scoring on that drive. I think that was when it was 20-17. And yeah, the Jags ended up scoring to go up 24-20. But I think it's before the pass interference call or after. I don't remember. Or the holding call, that phantom call or whatever on that third down. Was it on Benford? Was it on Milano? We don't know. But yeah, that's a great call. ETN leaks out of the backfield. The Bills are in cover 1, and ETN gets away from Milano, and Hancock is somewhere else completely and ETN is coming to the bottom of the screen and cuts up, and Bishop makes almost like a shoestring tackle. And if not, with ETN speed, it's probably a house call to your point. So yeah, it was a huge, huge touchdown saving tackle. Really nice to see from Cole Bishop. But yeah, they're going to have to bring it again this week. From a defensive standpoint, a lot of change and similar stuff to kind of Trevor Lawrence, but I think Trevor Lawrence is a better processor than Bo Nix. So again, change the pre to post snap picture, confuse, disguise, attack, play on that front foot, bring some corner blitzes like we showed, bring some fire zone stuff, some sims, some creepers. In addition, just the regular single high to two high to single high, but then mixing in, are we playing palms? Is it true quarters? Or playing man. Now it's cover 2. Are we doing split field stuff where it was the palms to one side and 2-man to the other? Just various coverages. They rotate in a bunch of stuff. They really have done a lot of that since McDermott kind of got involved more at halftime of the Atlanta game. And we're seeing, just some really creative stuff on the back end. We'll see if they can get healthier up front, continue to get some pressure. And we'll kind of see. Douglas says, what direction do you think they go at defensive end for this week? I don't think, am I crazy? Has anything changed from an edge standpoint? From a health standpoint? My thought it would still be Groot, Bosa, Epinesa, and Andre Jones. Right? Am I crazy? Unless you're thinking maybe Solomon instead of Jones. Jones got sealed a couple times on the run against Jacoby Myers, which I didn't like. And I don't know if Solomon's going to help you too much in that regard anyway. I guess I'd probably just stick with Andre Jones. You can make a case for Solomon maybe. I don't love it either way. It's not great. It's not ideal. But my thinking is they'll probably kind of stay with it as is. And then if Ed is healthy, I would think Ed would replace Fedarian Mathis, or maybe they go with 5 defensive tackles just in case Ed goes, but isn't really able to go. And so they want to do 5 defensive tackles just in case, yeah, fair to your point. Good. I see what you say there. That's what you said. Yeah, fair. Yeah, and then kind of seeing like, oh, okay, Ed's going to play. We're unsure if he can go, so let's dress 5 defensive tackles. Yeah, and then if you do that too, you can have TJ Sanders play a little edge if you need. I think that's kind of more of the way to go, to just 5 defensive tackles and then go from there. Messy. Carl says, what are your thoughts on the window being open for Oliver, Hairston, and Hamlin? Will any or all play in Denver? I think that Big Ed playing is the biggest X factor, which could really help Joey and Greg. Ed Oliver is the biggest one. If he's healthy and he can go, it's a huge boost. Not apparently, potentially. I'm very excited for that. So, yeah, that's huge for Ed Oliver. I think Curtis Samuel's window being open is really helpful as well because all the injuries at receiver. Hairston, I don't think he's going to play. He was a do not participate today. We'll see if it gets better as the week goes on, but that looked ugly a couple weeks ago, and I don't think he's going to play for a while. And then Hamlin, I don't know, man. He's reliable, but he's just so limited in coverage and so limited athletically. I would rather roll with Hancock than Hamlin. Just because the explosion, the juice, and maybe even putting some stuff on tape to see what you need next year. I think they need more of a true ball hawk and rangy type of dude at safety with some hybrid potential to really maximize what Bishop can be and just take this defense to the next level. Hancock could maybe be that guy. But for right now, I'd rather roll with Hancock. I combine Hamlin and Hancock when Hancock. I would rather go with Hancock over Hamlin, and I would take Ham Lewis over Hamlin as well. But man, kind of not great overall. Tough times. Yes, goat head all day. Go call Marcus. Appreciate you. Josh was saying, great segment today, Anthony. Appreciate you. You ever wonder if Bills players watch these? It seemed as if Josh Allen watched your segment with Eric last week. Which I wonder which segment you're talking about in particular. I do wonder that every once in a while, not necessarily for like my show or this brand, but like I wonder how many like players are like, oh, I got 10 minutes of downtime. Let me see what the podcasts are saying. Because I wonder how much of them listen to the radio or the internet versus social versus podcast, considering the day and age that we're in. But I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. Something else you would enjoy if you like pizza is the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. I do not say that because they sponsor the show. They sponsor the show because I truly believe they are the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. Sweet sauce pie, cup and char pepperoni. If you want to get different toppings or veggies, they'll chop them all up and sprinkle them evenly across the pie. They make their own homemade blue cheese. They have a phenomenal breakfast pizza. They also have a catering division called Elevated Catering of Buffalo. You can find that link and the One Pie Pizza online menu, both of those things in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to the show on. The catering division does these just any type of dish you're looking for, including a multitude of awesome mac and cheeses, this coconut chicken and rice dish that I've had before, great salads. Man, they really are just tremendous in the pizza game and the food game in general. And like I always mention, they're really good people and really kind. A multitude of different partnerships and collaborations to try and make the city better, the community better, whether it's partnering with Roswell to try and knock out cancer, partnering with the Alzheimer's Foundation, the SPCA, Toys for Tots that happens every holiday season, which I hope you folks participated in with them or participated in some form or fashion wherever you did. They're really good people making really good food. Go get yourself some One Pie Pizza ASAP. Bills play 4:30 this upcoming Saturday. Stop into One Pie maybe around like noon, 1, get yourself some pizza, chill, vibe out. Or hey, I don't know, maybe worst case scenario happens, the Bills lose and you want to feel better, go get yourself some delicious pizza Saturday night. Or maybe it'll be too late and they're closed, so maybe get it Sunday. Yeah, One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. I'm going to pull up the banner. This is Toodles, folks, because we're going to start to say goodbye here. I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. I didn't plan to go as long as I did. I should know that by now. This show, we go long. I appreciate everyone who stayed. We had a huge chunk of people in here for the heavy majority of the show, also watching the tape and the film and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate everyone who tuned in live to this episode. Before you leave, if you're still here joining us live, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. So whether you're watching live now or listening, whether you're watching live now or watching post live later, drop a like on this video. A lot of work goes into this stuff. A lot of time goes into this stuff. So the more eyes and ears it can reach, the better. And I'm sincerely appreciative of that in any way, shape, and form that you're able to kind of lend support. If you're listening to the show on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. I hope you enjoyed it, even though this was more of a visual episode than an audio one. But I think we kind of broke stuff down in a lot of ways. You can kind of see it, maybe feel it a little bit. So I hope you folks enjoyed this episode on the audio platforms. If you're listening there, please rate, review, and subscribe to the channel or the show. And maybe if you were listening, you wanted to see kind of what was up with some of this stuff, turn on YouTube whenever you get the chance and watch some of the breakdowns here. I'm always kind of torn on which way to go with the film and these shows because of the strong audio presence we have here on the show. So I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. I see a lot of the kind words coming through for myself in this episode. I sincerely appreciate it. This is good. We can go another hour. Yeah, I could too. This is awesome. I appreciate you folks. I don't like to pull up positive things for myself when I'm by myself, as you know, because I think it's corny to be like, oh, look at this nice thing someone said about me. But I see it all. I sincerely appreciate it all. I want to go back from Joshua. Saying the mitigating negative plays against the Eagles one. Maybe Allen did. Who knows? He definitely played within himself and made some awesome alien plays on top of it. And he'll, or against the Jags, and he'll need to do that again against Denver because it's going to be a tough one in a variety of ways. I appreciate you folks tuning in. I appreciate you for that, RJ. RJ says, awesome show as always. I'll bring up this one because just in case. RJ says, awesome show, in-season show. You did an amazing job this year. I appreciate you for that. Sincerely, RJ. Thank you very much. Who knows? This, I'm bringing this comment up not because of the kindness, although I appreciate it. But if I didn't even think of this last week, like if this is the last in-season show, whether it's this week or next week or whatever, appreciate you folks all season. We won't stop here, obviously. As soon as the Bills are done, whenever they're done, it's right into the kind of end of season recap, roster evaluation, and then free agency, draft scouting, prospect evaluation, all of that stuff. But I appreciate you for that, RJ. Yeah, thank you to everyone who rode with me throughout this episode. If you're watching live on YouTube, watching post live on YouTube, again, drop a like on this video, turn on notifications for disguised coverage. Check out the content across the channel. If you're listening on one of the audio platforms, rate, review, and subscribe. Whatever consumption form you have. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoy this show, if you enjoy me, whatever the brand, the channel, tell your family, friends, loved ones about it. If they're Bills fans, if they're just football fans, if you find value in this product, word of mouth is tremendously, tremendously appreciated by myself and the entire team. If you hated this episode or you hate me or you hate the show, tell your enemies and try and ruin their day by making them watch this show. Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. Thank you for all the kind words and support. Rate, review, subscribe, like, friends, family, loved ones. If you happen to be going to the game, I know guy, it lives in Denver and is going. Enjoy that. If you are someone else who is going to the game, have a great time. Go Bills. Be safe. Have an awesome weekend no matter what you're doing or where you are. And I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Thank you for everything. I will see you when I see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills. Oh, hold on. Let me stop. Nick says, shout out producer Joseph. Joe doesn't produce this show. Otherwise, I would. Joe produces the film room. Eric and I will be live tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern for the film room. But Joe doesn't do this one. I'm solo on this joint. Pre-episode production, post-show production, that's all me. But I appreciate you, Nick. Keep an eye out for Joe. Joe's a good dude. Go Bills. I'm going to do the outro again because it feels good. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I will see you when I see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.